All right, so China. We've all seen the headlines about, their economic slowdown. But what's the real story?
Yeah, and could this be a sign of things to come for, the rest of the world?
Well, luckily we found a really insightful video by Wendover Productions.
Oh, yeah, on YouTube.
Yep. It's called Why China's Economy is Finally Slowing Down. And it turns out this slowdown is totally tied to their housing market.
Interesting. Okay.
So we're going to break down exactly how that is.
Yeah. I mean, what's fascinating is that China's current situation, it's rooted in a housing crisis that started way back in the 1980s.
Really?
Yeah. And it's almost hard to imagine, given China's modern image of these huge skyscrapers.
Right.
But back then, the average urban resident had less living space than an American kitchen.
What? Less space than a kitchen. Oh, wow, that's hard to fathom.
It was a really dire situation, not just cramped, but lacking basic amenities. Many families shared kitchens and bathrooms.
Oh.
And the overall quality of life was, severely impacted.
So how did China go from this extreme housing shortage to the real estate boom we've witnessed in recent decades?
Well, Deng Xiaoping's economic reforms in the late 1980s, those were a major turning point. One key change was the introduction of land use rights.
Okay.
Think of it like this. You own your backyard, but you decide to lease it to someone, to build a lemonade stand.
Okay, yeah.
You still own the land, but they have the right to use it, for a specific time. This is essentially what happened in China. Local governments could now lease land to developers.
Interesting.
And that ignited a frenzy of construction and real estate activity.
So this policy change basically opened the floodgates for real estate development.
Exactly.
Is that where the story of Evergrande comes in? The giant developer featured in the video?
Yeah, exactly. Evergrande started with a single project. It was built on the site of a former pesticide plant, actually.
Oh, wow.
But they quickly adopted a very aggressive growth strategy. Snapping up land and building at a breakneck pace, they became one of the largest developers in the world.
Wow. A poster child for China's economic miracle.
So their story sounds almost too good to be true. Was this rapid growth sustainable?
That's the question that has everyone worried. As Evergrande and other developers built more and more, housing prices in China skyrocketed.
Yeah.
But here's the catch. Those prices became detached from reality. I mean, we've seen this happen in cities like New York, Vancouver, and London.
Yeah, for sure.
Prices get so high that they no longer reflect the actual need for housing. Homes become more of a financial asset than a place to live.
Yeah, it sounds eerily familiar to what we've seen in other markets. Would you say China was experiencing its own housing bubble?
Precisely. And there were some alarming signs. The video points out that despite soaring prices, vacancy rates remained incredibly high. Millions of apartments sat empty, purchased as investments rather than as places for people to live.
So people were buying homes they weren't even living in.
Yep.
That does sound like a recipe for disaster. It was a classic bubble scenario. The value of these homes was based on speculation, not actual demand.
Right.
And this created a huge amount of risk for the Chinese economy, and eventually the government decided to intervene.
This sounds like a critical turning point.
Yeah.
What did the Chinese government do to address this ticking time bomb?
In August 2020, they introduced what's called the 3 Red Lines policy.
Okay.
It's a set of regulations designed to rein in developer debt and cool down the overheated property market.
Can you explain those red lines a bit more? What exactly were they trying to control?
Imagine you're a bank and you're lending money to a developer like Evergrande.
Okay.
Before the 3 Red Lines policy, there weren't many restrictions on how much debt these developers could take on. It was a free-for-all. This policy established 3 key financial ratios that developers had to meet.
Okay.
Limiting their ability to borrow recklessly.
So it was like putting the brakes on runaway borrowing.
Exactly. It was a clear signal that the government was serious about deflating the housing bubble.
And how did companies like Evergrande, who were used to operating with a lot of debt, react to these new rules?
For Evergrande, it was a direct hit. Their entire business model was built on a mountain of debt, and the 3 Red Lines pulled the rug out from under them. They started missing payments to creditors, struggled to complete projects, and ultimately they defaulted on their debt.
Wow, a real estate giant brought down by government policy. This shows how drastically things can change when regulations are introduced, especially for businesses operating on shaky financial ground. It's a good reminder that adapting to market shifts is key to survival. And that's where companies like Dreamsoft Technologies Canada come in. We help businesses navigate complex changes and leverage digital marketing strategies to thrive, even in uncertain times. Visit our website to see how we can help.
Yeah, and the impact of the three red lines policy went far beyond Evergrande. It sent shockwaves through the entire Chinese property sector.
Wow.
Because many other developers had followed a similar high-risk, high-debt path.
So it sounds as this wasn't just an isolated incident. We're talking about a systemic problem within the Chinese housing market. What other factors contributed to this crisis?
The pandemic certainly didn't help. Global supply chain disruptions, economic slowdowns, and just the uncertainty of the time, it made it even harder for developers to meet their financial obligations.
Right, the pandemic had a global impact. But were there any China-specific factors that, added fuel to the fire?
Absolutely. China is facing significant demographic shifts. The population is aging, and the once booming migrant worker population, which fueled urbanization and construction, is shrinking.
Wow.
This means fewer people are entering the housing market, putting downward pressure on demand.
So we have a confluence of factors, a shrinking pool of buyers, a legacy of risky borrowing, and a government trying to regain control of a volatile market. What does this mean for the average Chinese citizen?
The impact on the Chinese middle class is particularly concerning. Many poured their savings into real estate. They saw it as a safe and profitable investment.
Right.
Now they're facing declining property values, unfinished construction projects, and the prospect of losing their hard-earned money.
This is a stark reminder that even the most seemingly robust economies are vulnerable to shocks and unexpected changes. Adaptability and staying informed are more critical than ever. Speaking of which, if you're a business owner looking to navigate these turbulent times and capitalize on emerging opportunities, DreamSoft Technologies Canada can provide the expertise you need. Our digital marketing solutions can help you reach the right audience and achieve your business goals, even in a rapidly changing world. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more insights into the global business landscape.
Right, and the housing crisis has also significantly eroded trust in the government's ability to deliver the economic prosperity that the Chinese people have come to expect.
That raises a critical question. What happens if this erosion of trust leads to social and political instability? Could this situation in China be a preview of what might happen in other parts of the world facing similar economic pressures?
It's a question worth exploring. We'll delve deeper into the potential global implications of this crisis after a short break.
So, history is full of examples where economic hardship has been a catalyst for social and political unrest.
Oh, yeah.
When people lose faith in the system to provide for them, it can create a breeding ground for instability.
For sure.
That's a sobering thought. It makes you wonder if this situation in China could be a canary in the coal mine for other countries grappling with similar economic pressures, especially in the housing market.
Right.
Could we see similar scenarios play out elsewhere?
Yeah, it's certainly a possibility. Globalization has interconnected our economies in ways we often don't fully grasp. What happens in China doesn't stay confined to China.
Right.
It has ripple effects on global supply chains, financial markets, and even the prices we pay for, goods and services here at home.
That's a crucial point. It highlights why understanding global events like this is so important. It's not just about staying informed. It's about recognizing how these events can directly impact our lives, even if they seem, far removed from our day-to-day reality.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power. The more we understand about these complex global dynamics, the better equipped we are to make informed decisions, both in our personal lives and in our businesses.
Speaking of informed decisions, that's where a company like DreamSoft Technologies Canada can really make a difference. We understand the complexities of the global landscape and can help businesses navigate these challenges. Whether you're looking to expand into new markets or optimize your current operations, our digital marketing expertise can be a game changer. Subscribe to our channel to learn more about how we can help your business thrive.
Yeah, and the Chinese housing crisis is a powerful example of how even seemingly unstoppable economic growth can be built on shaky foundations. It serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unsustainable practices and the importance of addressing, underlying issues before they escalate into full-blown crises.
It really drives home the point that we can't just ignore warning signs or assume that rapid growth will continue forever. It's about recognizing vulnerabilities and taking steps to mitigate risks, whether you're a government, a business, or an individual.
Yeah, for sure. This situation also highlights the delicate balance between, economic growth and social stability. when that balance is disrupted, as we're seeing in China, the consequences can be far-reaching and unpredictable.
It's like a domino effect. One problem can trigger a cascade of others, leading to widespread uncertainty and, potentially, instability.
Right, and the video does a fantastic job of explaining how this delicate balance was disrupted in China. The over-reliance on the property sector for economic growth, the soaring housing prices that became like detached from affordability, and the widening gap between the rich and the poor all played a role in creating the conditions for this crisis.
It's a complex web of interconnected factors, and it's easy to feel overwhelmed by it all. But that's why resources like the Wendover Productions video are so valuable. They help break down these complex issues into digestible pieces and highlight the key takeaways, which can help us make sense of, what's happening and how it might affect us.
It's also important to remember that every crisis presents opportunities.
Oh, yeah.
For businesses, it's a chance to reassess their strategies, diversify their operations, and build more resilient models that can weather future storms.
And for individuals, it's a reminder to stay informed, be adaptable, and make, smart financial decisions. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, especially when that basket is tied to a volatile market.
Right. And this deep dive into China's housing crisis has been incredibly insightful. It's shown us how interconnected our world truly is, and how events on the other side of the globe can have a direct impact on our lives.
It's also highlighted the importance of critical thinking and staying informed. We can't just accept things at face value. We need to dig deeper, ask questions, and, seek out diverse perspectives to get a more complete picture of what's happening in the world around us.
And if you're looking for a partner to help you navigate these complexities, Dreamsoft Technologies Canada is here to help. We offer a range of digital marketing services tailored to your specific needs. From search engine optimization to social media marketing, we can help you reach your target audience and achieve your business goals. Subscribe to our channel and visit our website to learn more.
So as we wrap up our discussion, what are some of the key takeaways our listeners should keep in mind?
Well, first, it's crucial to understand that the Chinese housing crisis is a symptom of deeper structural issues within the Chinese economy. These issues won't be solved overnight, and the consequences will continue to reverberate for years to come.
Yeah, and the consequences will continue to reverberate for, years to come.
That's an important point. This is not a short-term blip. It's a long-term challenge that will have lasting implications for China and the global economy.
Right. And second, this crisis underscores the interconnectedness of the global economy. What happens in one part of the world inevitably impacts, the rest of us, whether we realize it or not. We're all in this together, for better or worse.
Right. It reinforces the idea that we can't just isolate ourselves from what's happening in other parts of the world. We need to pay attention and understand the global forces at play. Yeah. And finally, this situation highlights the importance of staying informed, being adaptable, and cultivating resilience in the face of uncertainty. We live in a complex and ever-changing world, and knowledge is our most valuable asset when it comes to navigating these, turbulent times.
Those are some incredibly valuable insights. It sounds like the story of China's housing crisis is far from over.
Absolutely. It's an evolving situation with the potential to reshape the global economic landscape in profound ways.
This has been a fascinating deep dive, and I know our listeners are eager to hear your final thoughts on what the future might hold.
Well, predicting the future is always a tricky business, but one thing is for sure. The decisions made by the Chinese government in the coming months and years, those will have a huge impact on how this crisis unfolds.
So what are some of the potential scenarios we could see play out?
One possibility is that the government doubles down on its efforts to stabilize the housing market and kickstart economic growth. This could involve providing financial support to struggling developers, implementing policies to incentivize home ownership, or investing heavily in infrastructure projects to generate jobs and boost economic activity.
That sounds like a proactive approach aiming to address the problem head on. Mm-hmm. Are there any other potential paths they could take?
Another scenario is that the government stays the course with its current focus on controlling debt and preventing a full-blown financial meltdown.
Okay.
This approach might lead to a slower, more painful economic adjustment, but it could also reduce the risk of a catastrophic collapse in the long run.
So it's a delicate balancing act between short-term pain and long-term stability. Are there any potential downsides to either of these approaches.
Absolutely. Government interventions, even with the best intentions, can sometimes have, unintended consequences.
Right.
Trying to control such a complex system can lead to unforeseen ripple effects, which might make the situation even more difficult to manage.
It's a reminder that we're dealing with a dynamic system, not a static one. The situation is constantly evolving, and there are, no easy fixes. This level of uncertainty can be challenging for businesses trying to operate in such a volatile environment.
You're absolutely right. In these situations, flexibility is key. Businesses need to be prepared to adapt to changing conditions, and having a solid digital marketing strategy is a crucial part of that adaptability. That's where a company like Dreamsoft Technologies Canada can be a real asset.
I see what you mean. Dreamsoft helps businesses navigate this kind of uncertainty by providing data-driven insights, developing agile marketing strategies, and finding innovative ways to connect with their target audiences. If you're interested in learning more about how Dreamsoft can help your business thrive, be sure to subscribe to this channel and visit their website. So, the Chinese housing crisis. It provides a fascinating case study in the complexities of, modern economies. It's a story of ambition, risk-taking, and the unintended consequences of rapid growth. It reminds us that economic miracles can be built on, shaky foundations, and that even the most powerful economies are vulnerable to shocks and unforeseen events.
It also underscores how interconnected our world truly is. The decisions made by, governments, businesses, and individuals in one part of the world can have ripple effects that extend far beyond their immediate circles.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question. What role should governments play in managing economic growth and preventing crises like this from happening again? It's a complex issue with no easy answers, but it's a discussion worth having.
It's been a fascinating discussion, and I hope our listeners have gained a deeper understanding of the complexities of China's housing crisis and its implications for the world. Remember, staying informed is the first step towards, making better decisions.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We encourage you to continue exploring these topics and stay informed about the forces shaping our world. And don't forget to check out Dreamsoft Technologies Canada for all your digital marketing needs. Until next time, keep learning and keep exploring.